Next up on City TV, it's Murfreesboro Storytellers. Our program this month features Bradley Academy, located in downtown Murfreesboro, and its great history as a part of this community. Welcome to Murfreesboro Storytellers. For this month, we're located at the site of the historical Bradley Academy on South Academy Street here in Murfreesboro. And our guests are Dr. George Smith, who is the chairman of the Bradley Academy Historical Association Advisory Board.
Yes.
Dr. Smith, welcome to our program.
Thank you for having me.
And with us also is Margaret Davis, who is treasurer of the Bradley Academy Historical Society. Welcome, Margaret.
Thank you.
Both have been involved with Bradley for a number of years, but neither as far back as this organization, this historic school dates. Where did it begin, Doctor?
Actually, the original Bradley Academy was a log cabin building out on the East Fork of the Stones River. This actually is the 7th building that Bradley Academy as an institution has occupied.
And this building was built when?
It started in 1917 and completed in 1918.
Okay. Mm-hmm. This Bradley Academy itself as a school has a great history.
Yes.
I believe we have one of our presidents who attended here when it was a boys' prep school.
It was. The original Bradley Academy was a school for all white males, the planters of the Middle Tennessee area. And one of its two of its most famous students was James K. Polk, who subsequently became the 10th President of the United States, and John Bell, both of whom played prominent roles in United States politics.
And President Polk wound up marrying a local girl, Sarah Childress.
Yes, Sarah Childress, yes, yes.
And her home still is here in Murfreesboro on the other end of Academy Street. So
yes, yes.
Wonderful.
I don't think most people realize that one of the early United States presidents was educated right here in Murfreesboro.
I think you're correct. A lot of folks particularly have moved to our community in recent years, have no idea of the history.
Yes.
When did the school change from being a prep school for white males to being an African-American school?
Well, history records that a building sat vacant for approximately 40 years, and then in 1884, it became a school for African-Americans.
All right. And Margaret, you've been treasurer since 1986, I believe you say?
Yes, that was the first year that we started restoring the building with Dr. Hooter and Mr. Willie McGowan.
Okay, Dr. Jim Hooter, retired from the MTSU faculty, and Willie McGowan, who is historic with this organization and what he did to make it what it is today with this building.
He was determined to get it done, and he did, and he got sick at the end, but he still worked, and he came and stayed here, and Fred Bennett became day in and day out until they finished.
And let's remember Congressman Bart Gordon and the role he played in getting money for the restoration of the building.
He is the cause of getting the grants for the building. For everything that we done, he helped us to get it all done.
And who made sure that he did that?
Mr. Willie McGowan.
And John, what a great loss that would have been had we torn this building down.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, Bradley Academy Institution goes back over 200 years, and to have lost this building would have been a real tragedy.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right. Would you have any idea of how many children have gone through this school over the years and to be educated? Any numbers available? Difficult to say, I imagine.
It's been many years because I started in 1944, and it was already up and running then. And there's some pictures down in the Bradley Holloway Room tells have some students and teachers that were here before my time.
So you attended Bradley then?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes, okay. Tell us about some of those wonderful teachers that we know of the history of the school.
Well, my favorite teacher, which I hate to say it, was Miss Lilybell Whitaker, was a 4th grade teacher.
All right.
And the principal at the time here was Bradley Pecolia Smith. And her classroom was across there, and that was a 5th grade classroom. And Dr. Patterson's wife taught 5th grade. And her classroom was over there where the Civil War room is. And the principal at the time when I was going to school here, the superintendent rather, was Professor Green.
All right.
And his wife taught 3rd grade. And he was here for many years, and I guess everybody knows Miss Sadie Jones, which was a 1st grade teacher. And Miss Woodson, you remember Miss Virtual Woodson used to live down there on State Street?
And you mentioned Mrs. Patterson. Now, she was the wife of Dr. Patterson, was a noted, renowned dentist here
That's
for many
right.
years. All right, good.
And
Dr.
this
Smith, now,
was-
did you ever attend school here? You're not original to this community,
No,
are
I
you?
grew up down in Franklin County.
All right.
Yeah.
So you migrated
From down in the country.
migrated from Franklin County.
Coming to
then.
Murfreesboro was kind of like coming to the city.
I'll bet. How did you get involved with Brad? How come you became interested?
You know, actually, another lady on the board, Mrs. Vaughn, had invited me to come by Bradley for a couple of years before I actually came by. And I came into the building, and they had a museum, had one room set up as a historical demonstration of what had happened in the formation of this county. And they had the Holloway Room downstairs, which had a few trophies in it, and I approached the board and asked them to let me go in there and develop that room.
Wonderful, and you've
Since
never
then,
stopped.
I've been hooked. My wife does not know how much I spent.
She'll know now.
You mentioned the Holloway Room. Now, what is the connection with the Holloway Room in Bradley?
Okay, Bradley was the principal high school here until 1928. I believe when
Okay.
Holloway High School opened in 1928.
All right. So there was a definite connection. It was the high school for African American students,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And Bradley for the elementary.
Yes, and I believe they outgrew this building and rented another building actually before the
They
evolution.
had what we call the annex that was down below Holloway, and it had 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
I see. Okay.
And we had to go to Holloway for lunch, the bathroom, and library.
You had to go to the bathroom?
We
at
had
a
to go to the
different building?
bathroom,
You had to do what now?
go to the bathroom, to lunch, and to the library in Holloway.
Oh, for goodness sake, I see. So
It
you,
was what
you
they
shared
call
the
the
facilities then. Okay, all right, yeah.
Because the building just held the students with the 4 classrooms in it. They had 2 7th grade classrooms, which were Miss O.J. Hutchinson and Wilbert Bonds and Miss Roberts. At the time, she was a Rogers, and she taught 8th grade, and Miss Susan Rucker taught 5th grade.
All right.
And we
Now,
were in
am I
that,
understanding there were no bathroom facilities in this building?
I didn't realize
in that building, no. We had to go to Holloway for bathroom, library, and lunch.
For whom was Bradley named? Do you know?
There's, on the board of trustees, there is a gentleman, there was a name Bradley, but I've heard some people say there was a General Bradley or way back.
Way back,
I'd have to talk to some historians to really verify
Sure.
that.
How about Holloway? Now, for whom was it named?
Professor Holloway is down there in the room. His picture and all is
He
in
was
there.
one of the teachers, one of the professors there.
Holloway was named after him.
Right, that's what I'm asking. Okay, all right. Of course, we had the Holloway family was prominent in the community with Mayor Holloway many years ago. So
Well,
didn't-
his
wasn't
picture's downstairs in the Bradley Holloway room.
Dr. Smith, you're involved with the Civil War history too, as I recall. That's an understatement, I know.
Oh, that's a passion. I can't play golf, but I love reenacting that aspect of history. And I lived here a number of years before I discovered that the slaves came to Murfreesboro and to join the Union Army. And Murfreesboro has the distinction of actually having 2 regiments that were developed here. You had the 13th and the 17th United States Colored Troop. Initial recruitment started at Murfreesboro.
And so they were an integral part of the Civil War then.
Yes, yes, yes.
So where do you do reenactments these days?
Actually, at my age, I do more living history presentation.
Okay.
My days of shooting, I like to shoot black powder, but running and falling down on the ground and rolling over, I'll get a little old for that. So I do more living history presentation, but we do that year round.
I see.
Year round.
If anyone would like to have a presentation, would they just get in touch with you?
Love to do any excuse to put on the uniform.
All right.
If I had known, I'd have worn my uniform today.
I regret we didn't ask you to wear a uniform today because I know that is just a passion of yours, as you say, and you've been so
Yes.
good at it.
And we should remember that one of the Bradley Academy buildings was used as a hospital during the Battle of Stones River.
Oh, it was? Okay.
yes.
All right.
Many of the buildings in the area at that time were used as hospitals
So
for Union and Confederate
the
soldiers.
buildings of Bradley then certainly have a long history, a
Yes.
varied history, if you will.
Yes, so it ties in.
Margaret, tell us more about some more of the teachers that you recall that labored here in the vineyard.
Well, everybody know Miss Myrtle Lord.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Myrtle Glanton Lord.
when she when I was in school, the building didn't have bells, so she had this little boy that would be we'll call a little drummer boy that would beat the drums to let you know that it was time for school to start. And she had this thing of when you came to the cafeteria that you had to eat everything on your plate and that you had to be healthy, and she made sure that you ate your food, and if you weren't in her class, she still would tell you what you need to do and what you need to eat. But the teachers were wonderful, and I can say that I enjoyed it the whole time, but during the time when I was going to school, the kids have it made now because we had to walk. And I lived on Front Street, and we had to walk to school every day. And we didn't get out of school then like they do now because we came to school rain, shine, sleet, or snow. And the only kids that got out of school then was the one that lived in the rural, that they had, farms and cotton and stuff, and they could get out, but we didn't. And we had to come to school anyway. And the kids that came from Woodbury after the years, when the boys played football, if they had no way home, they would have to walk or catch a ride home. And I feel like that the kids now have it made and they don't appreciate what they have because they don't have to walk. Kids will live around the corner from the school and they can get on a bus. Mm-hmm. But I think that it learned you something and it taught you something. And then the books that we had were always leftover books. And sometimes the pages would be out, and if you found a page that was their book that had all the pages, the teachers would run copies out of it to make sure that all the kids had the lesson. And it was just a good experience, and I enjoyed it the whole 5 years that I went here.
And I guess integration changed the whole history of Bradley and the whole operation of Bradley, didn't it, Dr. Smith?
Yes, the legislation in the 1954 desegregation of schools, and yes.
And that gave rise to the new Bradley, if you will, the Bradley that's still a part of the city school system on Mercury Boulevard.
Yes, yes.
And that was with the desegregation program. Wonderful. And we certainly have had I guess a very peaceful resolution of those changes. The integration, I think, went very peacefully here, and particularly the educational system. I remember some of the teachers here, Mary Scales and Myrtle Lloyd and others who were instrumental in seeing that this all went well. So name some other teachers that you recall.
In Bradley, that was all the teachers that I named. In Bradley,
all
that was all that was here was the ones that I named. And the ones that was at the middle school at Annex, at Bradley, they called it Holloway Annex, Bradley Annex, I've forgotten, but it was just the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
You were showing me pictures of some of the rural schools where the students went there and did not come to Bradley, but they went to the rural schools, then they came to Holloway. Is that correct?
Christiana, they had Cemetery, what is it, Little Hope had one, and then in Christiana they had, and then, I don't know, Rockville, but after they got to Holloway, to 9th grade, they came to Holloway, and they all were bused in. But that's the only time that they had to be in the 9th grade unless the parents moved to the city.
Let's talk about, go ahead, Dr. Smith.
She's mentioned some of these other schools. We just started an organization. We're hoping to capture that history better and write about it. Talk to individuals. It's, individuals who are in their 80s, they have so much history with them, and we're losing those individuals. Unfortunately, we've not written down our history as well as we should, so we're hoping to capture some of that history and maybe store it here at Bradley.
So you have a new organization to do that?
Yes.
And what are they doing right now to get going?
Well, we just formally adopted our bylaws. It's called the African American Heritage Society of Rutherford County. All right. And we got a number of individuals very enthusiastic in that. Mary Watkins, you may know her. She's written and did research. So we're hoping to bring more Bradley's history as well as other African American history to the light in the community. Benevolent Cemetery is talked about a lot now, that history there.
And then, too, Bradley has the McGowan Banquet every year.
Yes, that's coming up in February. In March, isn't it?
Yeah, March the 21st is the banquet for this year. And I can't announce right now because we hadn't notified the people that's being honored, but the speaker will be Reverend John Brown.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I'm privileged to be one of the honorees and privileged to be associated with Bradley over the
Thank
years,
you.
as I used to live on Manny Avenue and played every day with a lot of good folks that went to Bradley, and I went off to Critchlow and they went to Bradley, but times have changed and certainly much improved over the years. What about the future of Bradley now? Tell us about the financial condition. Where do you get your funds from? How's
Oh,
it
Lord.
financed?
Well, we've been fortunate enough that before Miss Laura died, we have to give her credit for Bradley being in one of the shapes they're in now. We get a grant, get a donation from the city every year. But Miss Lloyd left her estate, a third of it to Bradley, part went to her family, and the other part went to her church. So we have rental of the building, and then we have the Heritage Festival and the Juneteenth. And it has been wonderful, but we need other ways and means of raising funds to keep it going.
The room we're in is used like an auditorium or also for dinners and banquets, and this is where the Willie McGowan banquet will be held,
Yes,
where
it
we're
is.
sitting now, will it not?
And it will seat 150. So we're hoping and praying that we can get it filled.
If anyone wants to rent or lease the facilities, what
All
do they
they
need
need
to
to
do?
do is call the office manager, and they can call her. They don't even have to come in, and she can tell them whether it's open or not, and they can get it, and then they'll come in and fill out a form.
What do you see, Dr. Smith, as future of Bradley to keep it a very viable part of the community?
Certainly, we've got to have more community support.
Yes, sir.
Very few institutions like Bradley or museums can survive just upon tourism that comes through. You've got to have deep community support, patrons.
Yes, sir.
Again, most folks don't really understand the jewel that we have here. When I've had the opportunity to give tours to individuals who come from other places, they marvel at what a wonderful institution I have here that has this history. So we've got to do a better job of reaching out into the community and reaching into the schools and letting them realize the tremendous history that's here.
Do you work directly with the city and county school systems in getting children in here for tours and visits?
We did at first, but for the last 2 years, the schools have not had funds for its
Transportation.
for its trips. And there's what's his name? He teaches 6th grade. He was getting them together, but anyway, we have worked with some of the teachers to see if we can get it started this year for Black History Month, and see if we can get it. And then we have these films on the historical of slavery and all of that we're trying to get out. We got a grant for that, and we have 4 films, and we've only showed 1. So we're trying to get the schools interested in seeing if they'll come after school and see if they can't come, sometime after school and look at them. They're wonderful. We showed one at 12 o'clock one day, but it wasn't anything but adults.
Okay.
But the kids need to see it and to see where they come from, where we all came from.
Sure, absolutely. The displays downstairs, the museum part, you have photographs of a lot of the African Americans who have been a great part of the history of this community.
Yes. Miss Roberts, she gave a lot of things to the community. And we have a lot, Miss Anna Holson is passed and gone now, but she and Mr. Ernestine would really have been a big help in giving us a lot of history of things that happened back then. And it has been real helpful. And so we went, some of the board, Katie Wilson Florence and myself went to this workshop on museums last year. And it was real interesting, and we learned a lot from that. So we have been doing some of the things that we learned from that museum, from that workshop, rather.
Dr. Smith, going back to your history of the Civil War, tell us about some of the activities that you folks do to bring that story alive. Do you work with Stones River Battlefield with some of that?
We do participate in programs there, and we've been very fortunate. Not only do we active in the community portraying events, but we travel out of state. We've been to Arkansas and Washington, D.C., representing the 13th. I would love to see a United States Colored Troop Institute somewhere in Tennessee, and why not Bradley? There is an institute in upstate New York, but it's not a United States Colored Troop Institute in the South.
Is that right?
This would be a great place for one.
So what would that institute do?
The institute would be about doing the history, doing research into the various regiments. You know, these individuals had names, they had families. We have started some research here with the 13th and the 111th and 110th. A number of them settled in this area to reinter the bodies after during the development of Stones River Battle, National Cemetery.
So some are buried in Stones River Cemetery then?
Oh yes,
oh, yes,
there are
okay.
to the 200 United States Colored Troop buried there, 2,000 in Nashville. But we've got local families who can trace their lineage to individuals who were in the Civil War. The Cheers family is very prominent here. And what we've discovered in that research is the number of ministers that have evolved in these families. These men, when they went away to the war, they learned to read and they came back and they became pillars in their communities and establishing churches in the community. Bethel Church is started by a United States Colored Troop member who settled in this community.
Interesting. So they've got what you might call a side benefit from being off in the Civil War.
Oh yes, strong family histories here. And that needs to be developed. That story's not been told.
Are we talking about a need for funding to do that, or what would it take to get that done?
Yeah, it takes about funding, but what's more important is the will to do it and the commitment of people to make it happen. Again, a United States Colored Troop Institute could be a huge undertaking in this community, could be a real tourist draw.
So it could be situated and operate and work out of the Bradley building, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, Bradley or some building.
Or some building, right.
As an advisory group, I generate ideas. If I can generate the ideas, you find the money, we'll make it happen.
And then find the people to do it. Once you find the money, it will be no problem there.
Oh yes, that's right.
Okay. This room here, was this part of the cafeteria originally?
Yeah, this was the cafeteria, the piece that's crossed there, where he set up at, that was a 5th grade classroom on the other side.
Okay.
And this was the cafeteria on this side.
So just a part of this room is the cafeteria then. How many students did Bradley typically have at one time? Or what was the enrollment?
I would be afraid to say each classroom had at least 20 or 25 kids in a room, and they all were filled, all the way up from 1st grade to kindergarten, because we had 1 1st grade, 2 2nd grade, 1 3rd, 2 5th, and 1 4th.
And did you had kindergarten here as well?
No, we just had 1st grade.
Okay, just
They called it Primer back then.
Okay, all right. What's your dream for Bradley, Dr. Smith? Any particular?
My dream is that Bradley would become a shining light for African American history in the entire Middle Tennessee area. We can do it better here, better than they can do it in Nashville. You know, you get into the big cities, you got all these different factions, but I'm in contact with lay historians in most of these Middle Tennessee counties, and they're just looking for someone to lead the way. And why not? I could see having a Saturday sessions where we'd invite these lay historians in and talk about what's important going on in their community. There are relationships just waiting to be developed. And since Bradley has a building like this, again, we could take a real lead into that. And we got MTSU here, Center for Historic Preservation. So the pieces are here. It's a matter of will to make it happen and some funding, but first there's got to be the will to do it.
And got to be some people that will take the lead, as you have over the years in so many ways. And that would certainly be a key to it. I'm glad to hear you mention MTSU, because I would assume the Center for Historic Preservation could really mean a lot to preserving this facility and reliving the history of it.
Yes.
In some of your presentations, do you do anyone particularly on the Battle of Stones River?
The Battle of Stones River, you didn't have any United States Colored Troop that participated in that battle, but we do have an individual downstairs who became a United States Colored Troop who was at the Battle of Stones River as a body servant, and that's a whole nother story. But we've got that history of, man, he was here as a body servant during the Battle of Stones River.
And his job was what now?
A body servant. Many of the planters' sons who went off the war, they took someone with them to do their cooking and the laundering and all. But this young man, after his slave owner's son was injured, he put him on a wagon, took him back to Cheverville to the Fairfield plantation. Then he came back to Murfreesboro and joined the United States Color Troop. His picture's downstairs, the original picture.
And did he live here after the war or anything?
No, after the war he went back to the plantation and actually helped this former slave owner raise crops.
Back to
Singleton family. Yes, the Singleton family. George Singleton.
I see.
Yes.
So those are,
that history is just waiting to be told. People don't know
the stories
that.
like that are so fascinating.
See, I get excited about
Yeah,
it.
I know you do. That's when I wanted you to relate some of those stories to it. Tell us one more if it comes
Tell us
to mind.
one more. Well, again, I know more about his particular story.
All right.
I know names of some other individuals who are connected with families here. John Cheer's family. Again, we've got them on the board. We've got a descendant line that depicts that family, and they've just been amazed to learn what we've been able to share. There are many stories like that.
Sure.
The whole phenomenon of the number of ministers in these families we see today, there's something being promulgated down the line that we don't have a good appreciation for. And I've just started to talk about this with other historians across the country, and they said, wow, we didn't realize that, that relationship.
So do you have a society across the country that deals with the history of the black troops?
Yeah, I was, I guess, the first president of the United States Colored Troop Living History Association.
All right.
And I stepped down a year and a half ago to concentrate more here, because I was traveling all over the country promoting everybody else, and said, the history is here. We've got to develop this story.
Margaret, any other thoughts about Bradley as far as what you see for the future of Bradley, what needs to be done?
All we asked, if we had someone that could help us to find ways to raise funds, and that would be a good help and a good benefit to Bradley, other than just the tours and the renting of the building, we would really be grateful if they could.
And do you need volunteers to do other things in
We
addition to
have
that?
been blessed with volunteers from MTSU and the community, and one of our board members that started out when we first started, Brother Shannon Blackman, if we have kids, groups that come in that is not on Thursday when Dr. Smith cannot come, he's always willing to come to help, and that's a blessing. He will come and help.
Is the building open pretty well every day?
The building is open from Tuesday to Saturday from 10 until 4.
So someone is here that can give them a tour?
Every day.
Is Katie Wilson here regularly?
She's in and out.
She's in and
with
out.
the office manager, and Benny Smith is here. Benny Smith is here mostly on Saturdays, all day. And but the office manager is here Tuesday through Friday from 10 to 4.
Very good. Well, we certainly hope that folks will take advantage of the opportunity of just coming and visiting.
That's right.
And watching and hearing this program originally in February of 2014. We remind you that next month, the month of March, is the date for the Willie McGowan Annual Banquet. And that's a fundraiser, is it not?
That's right.
What
That
is
is one. That is the best. That's the best that we have for the year for as a fundraiser, and it has been real successful. And last year we had a souvenir booklet, and it turned out to be real good. So we're hoping that we can have a good one this year.
What is the date of the McGowan?
March the 21st at 6 o'clock.
March the 21st at 6 p.m. Well, we thank you both for joining us for Murfreesboro Storytellers. Dr. George Smith, who is chairman of the Bradley Academy Historical Association Advisory Board, and Margaret Davis, longtime treasurer of Bradley Academy Historical Association Board.
Thank you.
We thank you both very much, and we appreciate all the good work that you have done and are doing for not only Bradley Academy, but for Black history in the community. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been Murfreesboro Storytellers, originating at the present location of Bradley Academy on South Academy Street in Murfreesboro.